Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel, or welcome if you're new. If you are new, then thank you for clicking on this video. Obviously you can see from the title that today we're going to be talking about something that I never really thought I would be talking about on my channel or on social media, to be honest, and that is my job. So my full-time job, which is a civil servant. And I know that a lot of people, unless you work in the civil service, you might not know what a civil servant is. I definitely didn't before I joined the civil service. You guys constantly ask me what it is that I do for a living and how I earn a certain amount of money a year at such a young age and all that kind of stuff. And in the video that I did about my savings and how I budget my money, which I will pop here if you haven't seen it already, definitely worth checking out. It's been one of my most popular videos that I've done. You guys asked me specifically how I got to the point from being 18 working at Wetherspoons to now earning £30,000 a year. And I wanted to do this video for you just to explain what it is that I do for a living. Also, the entry that I took and how I've got to the point that I am today. So I hope you enjoy this video and I hope that it's informative. This is just going to be a very general overview of what a civil servant is, what it is that I have done within the civil service and how I got into the civil service. But if you want to see anything specific, then let me know and I will definitely make that video for you. If you like this video and if you like videos like this, then don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe so that I know if you want to see more videos like this. I hope you find this video helpful and I hope you enjoy it, guys. A very brief and general overview of what a civil servant is someone that works for the government, essentially, but they work for the government in an impartial way. So they do not give them political advice, they just give them advice on the facts. As a civil servant, you are employed by the Crown and therefore ministers of the Crown. So basically you work for ministers and for government departments. So you will sit in a government department generally or an arm's length body and support the work of government ministers normally. There are some exemptions to that, but I will be talking about from my experience, and most of the jobs that I've had have been supporting government ministers. The term civil servant is such a varied term and it can be from literally anything from working in a job centre in Hull, helping people get their CVs together and get employment, or it could be working in number 10 Downing Street helping Boris Johnson get some legislation through. It could be anywhere in between those things as well. So it is such a varied term and it could mean so many things. You can work in the civil service pretty much anywhere in the country. I started in London, I've had 2 jobs in London and I've also had a job in Hampshire, but I will be moving a lot because my boyfriend's in the army, so it's really good that my career and the civil service as a career allows me to move around without too much hassle. I can transfer between departments and it's really easy for me to keep within the same employer, if that makes sense. There are so many opportunities within the civil service. There are civil servants that are scientists, there are civil servants that are accountants, there are civil servants that are writers and creators, there are people that are lawyers. There are so many types of people and they're all civil servants, but they all have so many different types of jobs. It is so varied, and if you don't know what you want to do with your life, genuinely, there's something in the civil service for you. I absolutely guarantee you. Anyway, this isn't like a sales pitch, this is just me telling you what the civil service is. So how can you actually be a civil servant? What do you have to do? What do you have to have in terms of qualifications and things like that kind of thing? I'll just talk to you about all of the entry routes that I'm aware of. I know there are probably loads more as well. The ones that I'm aware of are apprenticeships, which is the route that I took in. And for that you have to have A-levels, preferably. You can also use a scheme called the Fast Stream, which is a graduate scheme. Although if you are already a civil servant, then you can join the Fast Stream afterwards without a degree, so that's worth knowing. For obviously the graduate scheme you need a degree. Generally they ask for like a 2-2 or a 2-1 or higher, but it can vary, definitely. Other ways in are internships, so they do summer diversity schemes and loads of other types of internships as well. Or you could just be someone in your 20s or 30s that has been in a different career and you decide you want to join the civil service, start at a lowish grade and then work your way up just like any other job. In this video I'm basically just going to tell you about how I got into the civil service and how I became a civil servant from literally the age of 18 working in Wetherspoons to now earning £30,000 a year in a really good job that I really enjoy. But first I really need a coffee, so let's go and get one quickly. Okay, so I've got my coffee now. It is delicious. I love that coffee machine so much. Okay, so now let's just give you a bit of background about how I got into the civil service at the age of 18 without a degree. Okay, so I will give you a little bit of background about me. So I went to school and then I went to college where I did my A-levels, and then I kind of didn't want to go to university straight away. I did want to go eventually, but I just wanted to take a year out so I could get some money, go travelling, and then go to uni afterwards. However, once I had got some money and went travelling, I decided that I really liked having a job, even though it was only at Wetherspoons, which I loved, by the way. I actually genuinely loved working at Spoons. I really enjoyed working full time, and I really enjoyed having the money to support a lifestyle that I really wanted. I liked my car, I liked spending money, I liked going out with my friends, and eventually I knew that I wanted to move out, buy a house with my partner and have that life. And I thought by going to university that would just delay the whole thing. So basically that was my mentality at the time. So I had turned 18 and I decided that I really wanted to do an apprenticeship instead of going to university, to continue my further education but not go to a school environment and earn money at the same time. I started looking on the gov.uk website, which I'll pop in the description box down below if you're interested in looking at apprenticeships, because genuinely there are some really good ones out there, and some of them are well paid. I know you might not think it when you look on the apprenticeship website, because it's not a great website, I'm not gonna lie, but when you find the good ones, oh my god. As an 18-year-old getting £20,000 a year, I was so happy, and there are loads out there that do that, especially in the finance world. I have to say the finance ones are really well paid. All I knew is I wanted to do something writing, sort of admin based. I was quite organised. You guys know that I'm a fairly organised person, so I just wanted to sort of use that skill and then put it back out into my work and hopefully get something from it. I didn't know what any of these jobs were that were on the apprenticeship website, and I actually feel like I was really lucky in finding the one that I found. I knew that the government did apprenticeships, but I didn't know really what they were called, and I didn't know how to search for them. So I just started typing in random words and I came across a few. I actually had interviews for 3 apprenticeship jobs, and in the civil service. One was at the Treasury, which is where they do all the money stuff. And then 2 others were at the Cabinet Office, and specifically they were working in Parliament. And I basically got offered all 3 jobs. And had to decide which one I wanted to go for. So essentially the apprenticeships themselves were just jobs. They were just jobs that I would have been doing, but on an apprenticeship salary, so £20,000 a year. So the first job that I had was actually a diary secretary or a diary manager. So I was managing a diary of a minister, and it was really hard, and there was a lot of overtime, but I was working in Parliament. I walked past Big Ben every morning. We had 2 offices, one was in Parliament and one was in 70 Whitehall, right next to number 10 Downing Street. It was so cool, and as an 18-year-old that was really into her politics anyway, it was just the best start I could have had in my career in terms of exposure. I got to meet lots of people, really senior people within the civil service, who have helped me get different jobs and different opportunities since then, but also ministers, even if that work was just to make them tea or whether that was actually advising them on something really important. It was a really cool job to start with, and I almost feel like I was really spoiled when I got that job, but I was not complaining at all. Like I said, it was really well paid, and I just learned so much from that job. I was so happy when I found that apprenticeship. Not only was it a really well paid apprenticeship, but it was actually the best job that I've probably had to this day. Although I love the job that I'm in now, in terms of getting experience and getting exposure to things that I would just never get exposure to, it was fantastic. I cannot recommend the civil service enough for that kind of thing in terms of exposure and just like getting yourself out there. They give you so many opportunities, especially when you're on a scheme like an apprenticeship scheme, because they really know how to nurture talent, if that makes sense. Not that I'm saying I was talented, but they just treat everyone like they have got talent, if that's, yeah, that's what I mean. I ended up managing to save half of a deposit for a house using my apprenticeship money, and then I decided, because I knew that I would have a lot more outgoings in terms of mortgages, bills to pay, all of that kind of stuff, I decided that I would move to a different department. So this is when I moved from my first job that I loved to my second job that I also loved for a massive pay rise. And this was because I'd finished my apprenticeship, I got like a grade in my apprenticeship, and then you either stay on permanently, which they were more than happy for me to do, or move on and you get promoted and you do something else. And I actually basically skipped a grade. The civil service has grades, and I will try and pop something on the screen here if I can. So basically the civil service starts at AA or AO, which is administrative officer or administrative assistant, and that was the grade that I was getting paid for as an apprentice. Then you have executive officer, which is sort of the job that I was doing. That's the role that you would normally get paid if you weren't an apprentice. And then you have higher executive officer, which is exactly where I am at the moment actually. So I actually skipped the EO level and went straight to HEO because I'd had the experience within my apprenticeship to allow me to skip that grade. So I didn't actually ever, I started off getting paid £20,000 a year on my apprenticeship, which was still great. And then on my next job, I actually jumped to £33,000 a year because I had to skip that grade. So basically that apprenticeship fire rocketed me into this career that would probably take you a few extra years if you didn't have the experience that you gained on an apprenticeship. And for me that was amazing. Like, I couldn't believe it. And I think I may have turned 20. Yeah, I had turned 20 when I got this second job, and that second job was at Ofsted. So Ofsted is not a government department, but it is a arm's length body. So it doesn't have a minister of their own, but they're obviously sort of arm's length body of the DFE, which is the Department for Education. At Ofsted, I was doing a job that was fairly similar to my previous role. The general gist is I was a diary manager for two different people. One was a really senior civil servant and one was a senior cabinet minister. Let's just go for that. But I had extra responsibilities in this role. I would draft things on behalf of my principal and do a lot more in-depth stuff that I wouldn't have really done as an apprentice. So I had a lot more responsibility and therefore a bigger salary. I stayed at Ofsted for a while, however, this was still in London and I was now living in Hampshire, and the commute was just quite a lot and the train line was crap. The trains were awful and it would frustrate me on a daily basis, especially when there were strikes. But that's a sort of different story. But that is actually basically the only reason I decided to leave Ofsted, because it was the commute was quite far and I was losing about £6,000 of my salary to the commute, because that's how much a season ticket costs to get from Hampshire to central London. So yeah, although I was earning £33,000 a year, I wouldn't actually see all of that money. So then I actually moved into the job that I've got now, which I've been at for just over a year. I actually work for the Ministry of Defence now, and it's actually in Hampshire, which is great because it's really close to where I live. This is just a really good example of how easy it is to move from department to department within the civil service and get all of this wealth of knowledge and all of this different experience just within the same organisation. It's crazy because I started off in the Cabinet Office in Parliament, and then I moved to Ofsted, which is a completely different organisation. This is still in London, and then I moved to a different area completely in the UK, working at the Ministry of Defence. So it's just crazy how many different jobs that I've had, and the role that I'm in at the moment isn't sort of the same type of thing that I did before, where I was sort of someone's secretary or someone's PA or diary manager, whatever you want to call it. I'm now working within a team. I draft things on behalf of ministers, I advise them on policy changes that the Ministry of Defence are doing. I've learned so much from all of these different places, and now I'm really content with where I am. I've been in the civil service for 3.5 years now. I've had 3 different jobs, and a lot of my friends are still at university and haven't had any jobs. They might end up being lawyers and doctors and things like that, you know what I mean? But for me, I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to do that at all. I knew that I wanted to work in politics or around politics or something, and now I work for the government. Like, for me, it just fit me perfectly. And this is how I've been able to get into a situation where I earn £30,000 a year, I'm 22, and I've got a house. You know, I'm happy. I hope that's been a really helpful video for you guys, and if I'm talking to anyone out there that's thinking about doing an apprenticeship, definitely check them out. It doesn't have to be the civil service, but it can be anything. Definitely check apprenticeships out. I'm a massive advocate for them. They've helped me get to where I am now, and I'm only just starting in my career, and I owe it all to the apprenticeship that I did. So definitely check them out if you are thinking about it. But if you're just here because you're nosy and you wanted to see what I do for a living, then I hope that gives you a bit of an overview. I do feel like I've waffled on enough, so I'm gonna let you go. If you do want to stick around for a new video, then do subscribe to my channel. I really appreciate it. It helps me to grow and it helps to support me, so I would love to welcome you to the family. And let me know if you want to see anything specific down in the comments down below. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.